Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And, today we're going to be going to India.
Very nice.
To the foothills of Arunachala Hill in southern India.
I love it there.
Yeah. And we're going to be exploring the life and teachings of Ramana Maharshi, who is a truly fascinating spiritual figure.
He really is.
So, and what's interesting about him is he's not the kind of guru you see giving big speeches.
Oh, no, not at all.
Or, doing huge tours around the world.
No, he was all about stillness and quiet.
Yeah, he had a really unique approach to spirituality.
Self-inquiry.
Yeah, so we're going to be drawing our insights from Arthur Osborne's biography, Ramana Maharshi, Sri Ramanashram Life and Teachings.
Great book.
Yeah, and we're going to be focusing specifically on chapter 12, which is called Sri Ramanashram.
Okay.
And this chapter is so interesting because it really gives us this look at how the ashram grew over time.
It did grow so much.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that it all started with, just a single thatched shed at the foot of Arunachala.
Like you could almost picture it, right?
Yeah, like this tiny little hut.
And it grows into this complex.
Yes, and there's the hall where Ramana Maharshi would sit with his devotees.
The office and the bookshop.
Yeah, a dining hall where everyone gathered for meals.
Even a cowshed for the cows.
Like, it's amazing all the things that were there.
Really is.
And Osborne does such a great job of describing these, simple whitewashed buildings.
Against the backdrop of Arunachala.
Yeah, that majestic Arunachala Hill. It's a great visual.
Yeah.
It's a visual representation of his teachings, too. Like inner transformation over this external grandeur.
Yes, and what's even more interesting is that, this growth.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some strategic plan. Just kind of happened naturally.
Organically.
As more and more people were drawn to Ramana Maharshi.
Drawn to his wisdom.
Yeah, and their donations would fuel the expansion.
Right, so the ashram was really funded by devotees.
Yeah, it wasn't him going out there and asking for money or anything.
That's not what he was about.
Not at all.
Now, here's something that I think is really interesting.
Okay.
Ramana Maharshi chose not to be directly involved in the ashram's management.
That's kind of strange for a spiritual leader.
Right, you would think that a spiritual leader would be like calling all the shots,
Nothing, all the decisions.
That wasn't his style at all.
He delegated all the responsibilities to his brother, Niranjananda Swami.
Yeah, so his brother was the manager.
Yes. And, Ramana Maharshi, he really believed in leading by example.
Yeah.
So he became just another resident of the ashram.
He was submitting to the ashram's rules.
That's like everyone else.
Yeah. And Osborne has this great quote where Ramana Maharshi says, people come here seeking liberation and get caught up in ashram politics.
That's so funny.
It's very true, though.
It is, and it shows you how focused he was on the internal journey,
Yeah.
The true transformation that was happening inside people.
Rather than all these external matters.
Exactly. So it wasn't about controlling people or dictating the rules.
Right.
It was about embodying the principles that he taught.
Okay, so there's this great story that Osborne shares about this group from Madras.
Oh, yeah?
Who came with the intention of reforming the ashram.
Reforming it?
Yeah. So they came with all these pronouncements.
All these ideas.
And Ramana Maharshi, he just sits there in silence.
I love that.
It must have been so powerful.
Osborne describes it as, his presence was like a rock.
Wow.
Unyielding and timeless.
Wow.
And the group, they're completely thrown off by his silence.
They don't know what to do.
They end up leaving without saying a word.
Oh, wow.
And later, Ramana Maharshi just remarks, do they come to reform themselves or the ashram?
That is such a good question.
Really cuts to the heart of it.
It does. It makes you think, true change starts from within.
Yeah. And while Ramana Maharshi advocated for following the rules,
Yeah.
it wasn't about blind obedience.
Right.
He actually stood up against any practice that he felt was unjust or unnecessary.
Oh, yeah. Like that story about the coffee distribution in the dining hall.
Oh, tell me about it.
So Osborne talks about this as like a key example of his actions speaking louder than words.
So what happened?
So some devotees were served water instead of coffee.
Oh.
And when Ramana Maharshi noticed this disparity, he chose to drink water as well.
Oh, wow. In solidarity with those who weren't given coffee.
And from that day on, he never drank coffee again.
That's incredible.
I know, it's really cool. And it's a reminder that equality and compassion are so important.
They really are.
And it's not the only example of him challenging these norms, right?
Oh, there are many more.
Yeah, like that incident with the European woman.
Oh, yeah.
Who stretched out her legs while she was sitting.
Yeah, and then an attendant came over and, told her off.
Yeah, because she was like disrespecting the ashram rules.
Yeah, but we have to remember that Ramana Maharshi was pretty old at this time.
Yeah.
And sitting cross-legged for long periods was actually really painful for him.
Yeah, because of his rheumatism.
Yeah, so what did he do?
So he saw this as like an opportunity to show that this rule was kind of absurd.
Okay.
So instead of just speaking up,
Yeah.
he embodied the message.
Oh, I love that.
He insisted on sitting in the same position as this woman, even though it caused him pain.
Wow, what a statement.
I know, it's so powerful.
He could have just, told the attendant to relax the rule,
Right.
but he chose to show how absurd it was.
Through his actions?
Yeah, and it reminds us that sometimes actions really do speak louder than words.
They really do.
And what's interesting is that this approach,
Yeah.
it extended to all of his interactions.
Yeah. With people from all walks of life.
Yeah, from different backgrounds, different beliefs, even his critics.
Yeah. Osborne describes how he would engage with people from all sorts of backgrounds.
Different religions, different philosophies.
And even those who straight up disagreed with him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
It's like he saw those encounters as opportunities for deeper understanding.
Right. For himself and the other person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he saw those encounters as opportunities for deeper understanding for himself and the other person.
I remember reading about that Christian missionary
Oh, yeah.
who tried to convert him.
Yes. Osborne tells this story about this missionary who went to the ashram with the goal of persuading Ramana Maharshi to adopt Christianity.
Did he engage in a debate with him?
Well, it did kind of turn into a theological debate.
Yeah.
But actually, one of Ramana Maharshi's devotees, Major Chadwick, stepped in.
Oh, interesting.
Chadwick was really well versed in Christianity himself.
Oh, so he could hold his own.
Oh, yeah. He really challenged the missionary's interpretations of Scripture.
So what happened? Did the missionary give up?
Pretty much, Osborne notes that the missionary was taken aback by Chadwick's arguments. And yeah, he stopped trying to convert anyone.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that story because it shows how open the atmosphere was at the ashram.
Yeah.
It wasn't about forcing one set of beliefs on people.
No, it was about welcoming different perspectives.
Even those that challenged existing norms.
Right. And Ramana Maharshi didn't shy away from these interactions at all.
He saw the value in them.
Yeah, and there's another great story. Osborne shares this one involving a Muslim visitor who questioned the Hindu practice of worshiping idols.
Oh, I'm curious to hear about this one. What was his argument against it?
He basically said that God is formless and therefore worshiping idols was wrong.
That's a pretty common argument.
Yeah. But Ramana Maharshi, in his typical insightful way, he didn't directly refute the argument.
Oh, how did he respond?
He turned the question back on the visitor. He asked him, "Do you have a form?"
Oh, that's a really interesting way to shift that perspective.
It is. It made the visitor think about his own understanding of form and identity.
Yeah, he had to kind of look inward.
Exactly. And, Ramana Maharshi wasn't trying to dismiss the visitor's beliefs.
No.
He was skillfully guiding him towards a deeper understanding.
Right.
He was helping him realize that he was mistakenly identifying himself solely with his physical body.
It reminds me of that saying, know thyself.
Oh yeah, it highlights the importance of self-inquiry.
Before questioning external forms of worship.
That's a great point. It's like he was saying, look inward before looking outward.
Exactly.
So yeah, really profound.
And Osborne really highlights throughout the whole chapter this ability that Ramana Maharshi had to tailor his responses to the specific person he was talking to.
Yeah, he didn't have a one-size-fits-all approach to spirituality.
He was really meeting people where they were at.
Right, guiding them based on their individual level of understanding.
Like that story of the naked fakir.
Oh yes, the one who stood outside the ashram with his arm raised for a whole week.
With his arm raised.
Yeah, he was curious about his future and sent someone to ask Ramana Maharshi about it.
A whole week. What did Ramana Maharshi say?
Well, Osborne recorded his reply as tell him his future will be as his present is.
Okay, that's kind of cryptic, but also pretty deep.
It is. It's a statement about the power of the present moment,
We're always shaping our future with our actions.
Right, and our intentions.
It's a good reminder that we're not just passive recipients of fate.
We're actively creating our own reality.
Right.
And that connects back to self-awareness and taking responsibility for our choices.
There's also that story about the visitor who knew a lot about different spiritual paths and philosophies.
Oh yeah, he was showing off all his knowledge to Ramana Maharshi.
What happened?
Well, he asked Ramana Maharshi which path was the right one.
Okay.
And as Ramana Maharshi was leaving the hall, he simply told the visitor, "Go the way you came."
Oh my gosh, that must have been so embarrassing.
It might sound kind of dismissive on the surface.
It does.
But as Osborne explains, it was actually a really profound point.
to the ultimate truth.
Exactly. It's about the journey inward back to our source.
So instead of getting caught up in all these intellectual debates
and comparing all the different paths,
we should be focusing on going back to where we came from.
To our true nature.
Right. So let's switch gears a bit. What do you think daily life was like at the ashram?
Oh, that's a good question.
Was it really structured or was it more spontaneous?
I think it was probably a balance of both.
Yeah, I think so too. There were rules and routines.
But also that element of spontaneity.
Yeah, adapting to the needs of the community.
And the individuals in it.
It sounds like there was a really unique rhythm to life at the ashram.
Yeah, there's a really unique rhythm to life at the ashram, and Osborne does a great job of describing it. Ramana Maharshi really believed in being accessible to anyone who sought his guidance day or night.
So it wasn't like he had office hours or anything?
No, not at all. He wouldn't even let the doors to the hall be closed while he slept.
Really?
Yeah, just in case someone needed to reach him.
He sounds so dedicated to helping his devotees.
Oh, he absolutely was.
Yeah.
And there's stories of him talking with devotees like late into the night,
Oh, wow.
And what's really remarkable is that even though these people weren't getting much sleep,
yeah,
they didn't feel tired the next day. They were energized by his presence.
That's so interesting. It makes you think about what true rest really is,
Right, like maybe it's not just about physical sleep.
Yeah, maybe it's about connecting with something deeper.
Yeah, that's a really cool point. And, Osborne also talks about how Ramana Maharshi would help out with daily chores around the ashram.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he'd often participate in things like peeling vegetables or making leaf plates.
Wow, he wasn't above doing those kinds of things.
No, not at all. And his devotees would join him,
So it wasn't like a chore for them.
No, it was like a special time to be with him and learn from him.
It speaks to his humility,
It really does. Like, true spirituality isn't about escaping from the world.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sacredness in everyday life.
Right.
But Osborne does mention that as the ashram grew, Ramana Maharshi eventually stopped doing those chores,
Oh, why is that?
Well, more and more people were coming to see him.
Right, so he needed to be available for them.
Exactly. He had to dedicate his time to offering guidance and teachings.
It sounds like his role had to evolve to meet the needs of the growing community.
Yeah, it did. And, speaking of evolving roles, Osborne mentions that Ramana Maharshi stopped making Giri Pradakshina.
Can you explain what that is for our listeners who might not be familiar with it?
Sure. Giri Pradakshina is the practice of walking around the base of Arunachala Hill.
Okay.
It's a traditional practice that holds a lot of spiritual significance.
Got it. And Ramana Maharshi used to do this regularly.
He did, but he eventually stopped.
Why did he stop?
Well, there were a few reasons. First, the crowds became really unmanageable.
I can imagine everyone wanted to walk with him.
Yeah, it would just turn into this big chaotic event.
Right.
And second, he felt a strong sense of duty to be present at the ashram.
For the visitors.
Yeah, for the people who had traveled from far away to see him.
It's so considerate of him.
It really is. And lastly, Ramana Maharshi saw giving darshan as his primary duty.
And what does darshan mean?
It basically means offering his presence and his blessings.
Okay.
So he felt like his time was best spent being available at the ashram,
So even his spiritual practices had to change to meet the needs of the community.
Exactly. It's a reminder that life is about constant evolution.
Adapting to new challenges.
While staying true to our core values.
That's a really good point. It's amazing how Ramana Maharshi was able to navigate all of this,
It's such grace and wisdom.
It really is inspiring, and what's even more amazing is that even though the ashram was growing and he was becoming more famous, he never lost sight of the importance of self-knowledge.
He stayed committed to that path.
And he showed everyone that you don't need big speeches or rituals.
Right.
To experience transformation.
Yeah, it can happen in the quietness of our own being.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And I think Arthur Osborne's book does such a great job of conveying all of this,
It really does. He gives us so much more than just facts and dates.
Yeah, he really captures the essence of what it was like to be at the ashram.
Yeah, like the joy, the laughter, even the spontaneity,
It wasn't all serious and strict.
No, not at all.
There was a warmth and a lightness to the whole community.
It makes Ramana Maharshi's teachings feel so much more accessible.
Relatable.
Yeah, exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it makes you wonder, why should we, in the midst of our busy modern lives, care about a spiritual teacher who lived almost a century ago?
That is a great question. What do you think, listener, what relevance do his teachings have for us today?
Maybe it's his emphasis on self-inquiry. you know?
That journey of discovering who we really are.
Yeah, and that's a path that's open to everyone, you know, no matter what their background is or what they believe.
Or maybe it's his way of leading by example, you know?
His humility, his compassion, his dedication to truth.
And we can't forget his message that profound transformation doesn't require us to do anything drastic.
It can happen in the stillness of our own being.
Through contemplation and self-discovery.
Yeah, these are all timeless principles that can help us live more meaningful lives.
I know, I'm leaving this deep dive feeling so inspired by Ramana Maharshi's life and teachings. And Osborne's biography is a wonderful guide for anyone who wants to learn more.
I agree. So listener, as you go about your day, we invite you to consider this. What if the answers we're seeking aren't out there in the world, but within ourselves?
What would it mean for you to turn inward and discover your true nature? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and enriching.
I hope you liked this chapter. We need volunteers and sponsors to create content with even better quality and with more variety. If you wish to join this initiative as a volunteer or sponsor, please click the links given in description below. To help us reach more viewers, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Biography Central. Thank you for your time. It means a lot. Namaste.